Alaskans, wherever you are, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Welcome, everybody, to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from somewhere in Alaska. Hope everybody's having a phenomenal day today. Yesterday, the sun was out, which was awesome. And I want to thank everybody that listens, watches, and reads Must Read Alaska. If you want to help keep the lights on, just go to mustreadalaska.com. On the right-hand side, there's a little donate button. Every $5, $10, $100 helps keep the lights on. Here at Must Read Alaska, if you want to sponsor the Must Read Alaska Show, which I know everybody's dying to do, just email me, John, John, at mustreadalaska.com. I want to give a special shout out to Suzanne Downing because a couple weeks ago, Senator Dan Sullivan, who's just amazing and epic, read a really awesome thing into the congressional record that highlights Suzanne Downing's work with Must Read Alaska, and was really just an awesome thing, a part of history that, you know, nobody can ever take away. And he read it into the congressional record, congratulating Suzanne Downing and all the work and accomplishments she's done with Must Read Alaska. And he's just awesome for doing that. He went above and beyond, him and his staff, to do something like that for her. And so I just wanted to thank him publicly for doing that and congratulate Suzanne Downing publicly for doing that as well. It's pretty awesome. If you're interested in seeing what that looks like, if you go to my Facebook page, I posted a link to the congressional record itself. You can go check out. But without further ado, I have a friend back here on the Must Read Alaska Show, Representative Sarah Vance. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
It's good to be on again, John.
Well, I'm glad you're here. This year, we're doing a cool thing that kind of highlights candidates running for office all around Alaska. And, anybody that's interested in being a part of this candidate highlight forum, you can sign up. There's a post pinned to the top of the Must Read Alaska page. Just go there and sign up, and I'd love to have you on. So, Representative Sarah Vance, for folks that have been living under a rock their whole life, tell us where you're running for re-election and how the campaign's going so far.
Well, thanks, John. I am Representative Sarah Vance, serving House District 6 of the Lower Kenai Peninsula. That district starts in Kasilof and goes down to Homer and across the bay to Soldovia and Halibut Cove. And I have a great coastal community, lots of wonderful people. My district is the one that most Alaskans like to vacation at. And I grew up here, raising my 4 children with my husband, Jeff, right around the corner of where I grew up. So we get to be a part of my parents' lives every single day. And today is my dad's 75th birthday. So I want to give a shout out to my dad because he is incredible and has been just made it his life goal to be the best papa, not only to my kids, but to everyone else's. So I just want to take a moment to honor him today. And I'm running for re-election to State House because, man, there's so much work to do. So much work to do.
So, I think your story is an awesome testament of getting back up and trying again and eventually becoming very successful. Talk to me a little bit about that. You ran for office, I think initially city council, and you kept at it. You didn't let it defeat you. You didn't let it bring you down. You kept at it. And now we're 3 terms in. Talk to me a little bit about that resilience and what's behind that for you.
I love that you asked that question because you've known me all this time and have really walked through a lot of the growing pains of my district and really me growing up into what it means to represent the people. And I've thought about that a lot this year. And back in 2017, I was that person living under a rock, happily quiet. I didn't even watch the news because who needed that negativity in your life? And I was a homeschooling mother of 4 that I voted, but I didn't even know the name of my mayor. And an issue came up in Homer where I call it the night of the resolution, an unconstitutional anti-Trump resolution making Homer a sanctuary city started circulating. And I said, that's it. I have to say something. I have to engage because not in my town. I want a safe community, and we can't handle a lot of illegal immigrants coming. And now you fast forward to what we're seeing across the nation today. My instinct to speak up and engage was so right at that time. We had no idea what it really meant and the impact that we're seeing now, and yet we knew it was wrong. So I went to the city council and I spoke up that day. And when I got there, there were more than 200 angry bubbas at that meeting that said, no, not in our town. So uh, it initiated a response from people. They remembered what I said. And as you know, we had a big recall campaign of half of our city council, and I became the face and the voice to that effort to bring about accountability, but also establishing a voice of the people and safety in our community. And that was also during the time of the SB 91 soft on crime bill. And people were just overrun with property crimes, their cars being stolen and feeling that they weren't safe in their own homes. So that year, I ran for city council that fall and I got spanked. I mean, I lost so bad, and I cried for about 3 days. And I picked myself up and I said, okay. A good friend of mine said, Sarah, you're not supposed to be there. God has someplace else for you. You just need to figure out where that is. Well, that summer, before I ran for city council, someone had asked me to run for state house. And I said, you're crazy. You are crazy. I can't do that. And that December, after I had lost city council, I got another phone call that said, I really would like you to consider running for state house. And I said, I am so humbled that you think I could represent you on the state level, but I have so much to learn. My children are young, and I'm going to have to say no. And I hang up the phone, and literally my husband looks at me and he says, Sarah, I think we can do this. And that's the moment that I thought, if my husband says we can do this, then I can do anything. So we started taking it one step at a time. And that next year, I won election to the state house, defeating a 16-year incumbent. And the rest is history. But that same passion for justice and safety in our community is something that drives me still in my legislative work. We worked and we repealed the soft on crime bill and enacted stronger crime laws. And I now, this last term, have chaired House Judiciary to work to defend the vulnerable. And when you look at the impacts of the open borders and the illegal immigrants coming, I just think about, what if we didn't speak up in our town that day? What if we did have a lot of these illegal immigrants coming and just create a burdensome capacity that we can't handle here in Alaska, and seeing the rise in crime? We already have very high crime, and we have a lot of crime against the vulnerable. And if we added to that, I think Alaskans would be just absolutely overwhelmed. So I've reflected on that time of how I started and where I've been, and that's why I say there's so much more work to do, is because the people have said, please don't stop speaking for me. And that's why I'm running for reelection, is to continue that voice for justice, for accountability, and just doing what's right. Common sense things. Sometimes it takes a mother to remind you that common sense rules at the end of the day.
I like that. One of the things I like about your story, for folks listening in that are always wondering, what can I do? Can I make a difference? Do I really make a difference? Representative Sarah Vance, you just heard an awesome story from her. She was a homeschool mom wondering how to get involved, and she unseated probably one of the incumbents that people thought was never going to be unseated. And it really, I think, was a bright, shining moment that anything is possible. And I think that you've inspired a lot of folks to get involved in politics. Now that you're involved, what are some of the highlights along the way for being in there, serving the folks of Homer, but also representing people in Alaska? What are some of the highlights that have been there for you over the last couple of years?
I I like to work on a lot of different issues. I probably do too much, and it's just because there's so many issues that people care about. One of them is working on election integrity. Boy, is that a hot topic, and has been for quite some time. And I have been the lead in the House Republicans on those issues just because of the committees that I'm on, and taken an interest to make sure that people have confidence in our elections. And this last year, I moved a bill that would clean up our voter rolls. When you look at all of the things that need to be addressed, the very simplest thing that we can do, and one of the easiest, is to clean up our voter rolls. And the Division of Elections needs some statutory guidance on the timeline to do that, using governmental sources of data so that it's reliable information. And I moved that bill. It received bipartisan support across the House. And then the Senate decided to get greedy. And they decided, instead of it being a one issue bill, it was a short 4-page bill. They turned it into an omnibus bill. And I call it the open borders on elections that they wanted. They wanted to open it up, remove the witness signature, same-day voter registration. They wanted to remove any requirements for special needs ballots, and just a lot of different things that, without added protections and verification, would have resulted in a lot of dangerous policy. And I ended up having to kill that bill on the last day of session because it was so dangerous. So I'm working on issues that are important to the people, that they're saying, is anyone going to do something about this? And I have purpose that, I'm going to listen to the will of the people and make the issues that they feel like no one's listening, make those my priority. So elections is one of them. The fisheries, they really matter. No one is happy with the fisheries. I've been listening to the fishermen of every stripe, because that's who I represent in my district, and wanting to make sure that we can preserve that fishery for generations, because we've seen significant changes. I have worked to support our seniors. Our district has a third of our population are seniors, and defending the senior property tax exemption, I passed an amendment in a moving bill that extended the senior benefits payment program for low-income seniors, that determines the difference of them being able to buy food or medicine, having that little bit of help. So I have a whole potpourri of issues that I care about because people have brought them to me and said, can you do something about this? But I'll take a breath and let you ask me questions, because I could go on about a lot of I've so many things that I care about, because it's really, the focus is the people. I have no aspirations and agenda other than true representation.
I like that. So you're running for reelection. You obviously have some opponents. What separates you from your opponents? I think there's some very key distinctions between you and maybe your top running opponent. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, one of the first key distinctions is that my top opponent has publicly said that he would caucus with the Democrats. He's running as an independent, and when you coordinate your campaign with the Democrat Party by paying for that, you said you would caucus with them, you've been endorsed by them, you're on their campaign, their website. Clearly, you're not independent. So my recommendation is to take a look at that. And if he isn't being honest with you about who he is, what else is he not being honest with you about? The next thing is taxes. I tell you what, people are being squeezed in so many different places with their pocketbook that, how much more can we take when it comes to the price of groceries, to utility bills, to our property taxes? The property taxes have gone up considerably this last year in the borough, and my opponent is the borough assembly president, who's been leading the charge on raising taxes and finding different ways to tax us, because he wants more money in the general fund. That is something that my district has specifically opposed. My district has made a very, very clear mandate when I was first running to oppose a statewide income tax. They said we can't take it. uh, we are being squeezed, and that was 7 years ago. That was before all of the increase in inflation that we're seeing now, and people are struggling. My opponent has he voted in the assembly to reduce the amount of the senior property tax exemption. You know, the senior property tax exemption saves our seniors thousands of dollars a year. And I've spoken with some of our seniors who said, you know, the property taxes have risen so much. Even with my property tax exemption, I may have to move out of the home that my husband built for me. That's heartbreaking. And so I'm going to stand up against burdensome taxes by principle, but also because right now we cannot squeeze blood from a turnip. We can't put a burden anymore on the people, and we need to figure out what we can do to reduce the cost of government on the people so they can live freely.
And one of the things that I listened to an interview that your opponent had on, I think it was KSRM with Dwayne, and he was in favor of essentially writing a blank check to the Department of Education. My guess is that you have a different stance than him on that. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I do. He has been very clear that he wants uh, to increase the BSA to what NEA wants, which is an additional 300 million a year, automatic, no questions asked, and inflation proof it. And so that means, you know, an unknown amount every year on top of that, right? And then he also agrees. He said he would vote for the defined benefits uh, program, which we know we still owe. I think the last number I heard was 8 billion on our previous defined benefits, and we don't know the actual cost of this current rendition of a defined benefits bill. So yes, he is saying, you know, whatever they want, let's give it to them because that will solve our problems. But I believe in parents' choice in education and believe that we not only need to properly fund education, but bring the reforms needed to help our students succeed. And I think that that's truly what people want, because right now we're not seeing our students succeed. They're struggling. And we've had the results come back from the Department of Education on more of the assessment. They lower the standards, and yet our kids are still struggling to meet those standards. More than 70% are not proficient in basic math and language and reading. And that's heartbreaking because all of us want our students to be able to meet those basic academic levels so that they can succeed in life. So that's what I'm doing, is bringing that accountability, saying, let's work harder for our students, open up opportunities in every area of education where they can, where our students learn.
I like that. What about, do you have any events coming up? I know that there's going to be folks that listen in that maybe they want to get a hold of you or your campaign or come to an event. Tell us all those details. What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you, and, you know, any upcoming events that you have going on?
So on this Saturday, I will be at the Anchor Point Senior Center, I believe from 5 to 7 p.m., if I'm remembering the time correctly. And we're going to be talking about repealing ranked choice voting. We have the repeal on two people coming so that people can learn more about that. That is also a distinction between me and my opponent, is that I'm doing the will of our district by working to repeal ranked choice voting. My opponent thinks that it's fantastic. Um, I have Taco Tuesday coming up on Tuesday, September 24th at Don Jose's from 5 to 7 p.m. And Carmen is saying, yeah, $2 tacos, but let's just come and have a good time. You can get to know me and ask me any question that you want. And then I will be working to be at every possible event, meeting with our fishermen, because I'm on the seafood task force right now and trying to solve some issues in a struggling industry. But I'm setting up more events. I've just had several this last week, and you can follow on my Vote Sarah Vance page to see more of those events.
Nice. We'll put the links in the podcast description, and for easy ways for folks to get in touch with you. So, last couple minutes here. Any last thoughts? The floor is yours before we head off.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to just talk about some of the things that I'm working on and the distinctions between me and my opponent. You know, when it comes down to it, is that I work to do the will of the people. I have a proven record of keeping my word. And that doesn't mean that I make big promises because I take that very seriously, but it's a motto in my office that when someone comes to me with an issue, I say, let me see what I can do for you. And when people elect me to do a job, whether that's to defend the dividend, repeal ranked choice voting, uh, support our seniors, election integrity, I'm going to do what I said I would do. Opposing burdensome taxes, I'm not going to get in and say, well, but I know what's best for you. Because I have this trust relationship with the people that they're my boss. And I know that there is a great working relationship that if I don't keep my word to them, there's nothing else. And I don't want to be seen as a politician. I'm not. I'm a servant of the people. So when you're thinking about who you want to represent you in office, I think that's a clear distinction to make. And I'm available to anyone. I encourage you to follow and like my campaign page, Vote Sarah Vance. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, on X. But also, if you just have any questions about anything, give me a call. My number is 299-7368. I give that out to everyone because I want to show you that I truly am available and want to be a help to you in any way that I can.
Awesome. Well, we wish you nothing but success, Representative Sarah Vance, in your reelection. For folks listening in that maybe just caught the tail end, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to the whole episode, especially if you live in the Homer area. You really hear the key distinction between Representative Sarah Vance and her opponent, which I think is good for folks to know and hear, especially if they live in Homer. So for folks that listen, watch, and read Must Read Alaska, and you want to help keep the lights on, just go to mustreadalaska.com. In the right-hand side, there's a little donate button. Every $5, $10, $100 helps keep the lights on here at Must Read Alaska. If you want to sponsor the Must Read Alaska show, just email me, John, JOHN, at mustreadalaska.com. We hope everybody has a phenomenal rest of their week. And until next time, I'm John Quick from somewhere in Alaska. Thanks so much.